Hello, everyone. My name is Gary Gomes. I'm a Vedic astrologer from New Bedford, Massachusetts. My voice is a little hoarse this week. It was much worse yesterday. I could barely raise above a squeak, but it's improving day by day. So I'm starting to get more and more back into a normal voice. It's just a cold, but sometimes it affects me this way. So, also, if you want to have readings, I'm perfectly capable of doing readings when I'm in this state. You can contact me at 508-525-0001. If you're interested in lessons, we can discuss that. Again, contact me at 508-525-0001. You can text me at that number. That's also my WhatsApp number. You can look me up on WhatsApp if you want to have a more confidential. Although, from what I understand, there's no such thing as a confidential conversation anymore. But but basically, and you can also email me at garygomesg@gmail.com. So my name, excuse me, the letter G, and so and at gmail.com. So it's Gary Gomes, G all run together, and at gmail.com. So the first thing, so I may make this a bit shorter. I know I promise to do that every week, but this week I really mean it because my voice may not hold out the entire session. And so let's look at the map of where the planets are right now. And I may look at the U.S. map, but we did have a big change this past week. I did get a few people reporting to me that they felt either uh, betrayed or nervous or anxious and um, untrusting. We're seeing a lot of people across the world viewing their governments with distrust, viewing even people they'd entered into alliances with in a realm of distrust. And that's uh, mainly because of one major transit, which I won't say it's often ignored, but sometimes people don't pay attention to it, I think, as much as they should. And that's this little guy over here, the Mars and the Mercury conjunction. Now, this I've often spoken about this conjunction before because it's a relatively prominent position for actors, um, politicians, and lawyers, and it's essentially what I would call in the most indelicate terms a lying conversation. It's a conversation in which people tell untruths or feel like, let's say Mars is a planet of logic, of seeing a project through to its completion. Mercury will make it feel like your friends or even your allies are undercutting you if it goes retrograde and is in the same sign with Mars. Last Sunday through Monday, basically, those planets, pretty much all the way through Wednesday, those planets were right on top of each other. I mean, literally, there was a planetary war between Mars and Mercury. It seems like a small event. It doesn't seem like all that significant. But in terms of this chart, it's incredibly significant because you don't have Saturn giving you much hope right now because Saturn has been afflicting Sagittarius, which is the U.S. rising sign. Saturn has been, and Jupiter as well, just recently went retrograde. So Jupiter was going into a position all the entire past week of what's called a stationary direct position. and it was aspecting that Mars-Mercury conjunction. So this is a high level of distrust, extremely high level of distrust. And one of the things I noticed, so the government shutdown, I think, I want to talk about that for just a minute. The government shutdown will probably continue until close to the end of the month, basically when Saturn is going direct. Technically, the government shutdown has not ended. They just have enough votes to clear it in the Senate. And they voted on that particular bill. The House has to vote yet. And it also takes, but they're going to try to do it. Let me just check something. I was want to check and make sure that I'm telling you good information. All right, so the government has reopened, and federal employees are returning to work. Um, let's how is food package? You just how is food. So it looks like it ended this week, but it'll take a little bit of time to get everything up and running again. But actually, one of the things I feel actually kind of stupid about, and I didn't think about last week, was that the government shutdown was really not timed to. So Saturn will essentially take a little while for Saturn to go direct and get the machinery of government working. But the Mercury retrograde actually indicated um, the releasing of a block. So uh, I just want to give sort of a wake up call to to people who thought that uh, there was a lot of courage in opposing the shutdown, and were disappointed when the Democrats reversed themselves and voted um, to allow the vote to go forward without a filibuster. Around so what happened the week before they voted to um, reopen the government? Well, there was an election, and I think one of the more obvious things that we could look at is if you have wasn't sustainable to keep the government closed for too much longer because certain things like SNAP benefits were not fully funded. Uh, Government employees, through no fault of their own, were not being paid. And even if you dislike the government, I can't justify people not being paid for a prolonged period of time. So essentially, it was an election. The Democrats did well. It was a political maneuver to essentially um, motivate the base to win an election. Uh, and I'm not saying that just because it's the Democrats. The Republicans have engaged in the same activity before. But interestingly enough, it happened when this Mercury-Mars conjunction was really, really active, was really, really pronounced. So this is politics. This is how politics is played. It's I don't want to sound cynical, but politics is played to accumulate power, so those parties can either stop something happening that they don't want to happen, or to allow something to happen that they do want to happen. Sometimes those interests coincide with the interests of the voters. So I'm not trying to say to you you're foolish, but this is essentially the way politics is operated. And and to be honest, I wasn't thinking in terms of the election. I was thinking in terms of Saturn's movement and Jupiter's movement. But it was interesting that it happened just right after Mercury turned retrograde, and Jupiter was going stationary direct, and also when Saturn was preparing to go stationary direct. So it was a little bit, maybe about 2 weeks before I thought it would happen, but it did happen. So this is useful to look at. But again, I think the important thing to keep in mind is if we go back to, uh, let's see when election day was. I think it was November 5th, if I recall correctly. That was Wednesday, November 4th. November 4th. So this will help you a little bit. So Mars and Mercury were within 5 degrees of each other. Jupiter was direct. Saturn was direct. They voted to, I think it was November, what was it, November 10th? I think it was. They voted to November 10th or November 11th. Mars and Saturn were close to planetary war. Um, Mars was winning planetary war, and on November 11th, November 12th, Mercury was started. November 11th, I think it was 11/12, excuse me. Yeah, so Mercury and Mars were in planetary war still, but Mercury started to win the planetary war in that particular time frame between last Wednesday and last Thursday. So again, as soon as I looked at the election results, and I said, "Oh God, I've been so dense." So it was an election strategy. Um, it wasn't something. Um, and they also couldn't maintain it for much longer without serious obstacles happening to air travel, and a variety of other programs. So I think that both parties were stubborn on this, but if you have so there'll be an opportunity to contest this again around January 30th. Let's see what January 30th looks like. All right, so this government shutdown isn't, or this government extension isn't going to last forever, right? It's only going to last for 3 months, roughly. I think it's January 30th or 31st. Let's see, we're going to have another problem like this next time around. And yeah, we will, because Mars and Mercury will be in the same sign again, along with Venus. So, but this time business interests will intervene and just say, hey, you guys can't do this. Also, I am seeing some uh, give and take on the medical insurance front, or on the medical insurance front, because Venus looks like it's going to be the big issue in that particular fight over the government extension, and I'm not seeing this next one as being as bad as this one has been. But again, it will be used for political purposes, but there aren't any political contests anywhere close to that particular date. So again, keep something in mind when you see something happening or happening close to elections, then realize there's going to be some kind of political manipulation going on. It's just, it's just common sense. It's not even astrological, it's just common sense. Saturn's been aspecting the moon for the past, it seems like forever to me, since since around all day yesterday and most of today. And a little bit into Friday, that was when I started to feel really, really sick. And I think that these particular combinations, Saturn aspecting the moon, Saturn aspecting the sun, we're seeing a lot of scandals happening in the United States as well. We have Rahu over the U.S.'s moon sign. I'm going to show you the U.S. chart in a second. And also a lot of scandals happening internationally in news. So there was just a big, I don't know if many of you saw it, but there was um, a um, a scandal involving the BBC essentially editing Trump's January 6th speech, and technically what was said, but you had one part of the speech from about an hour before juxtaposed on another part of the speech about an hour after, and that's so I I think that's what's bothered me the most over the past, I would say, 10 years. And that is, I've seen a lot of media manipulation going on. That's really what sort of caught my attention because I hate to be, um, I want to judge people on actions and what they actually said, not what people think they would have said or not what people want them to say. And this was a blatantly dishonest act of tape manipulation. Were the two things said? Yes. Were they said close together or right after each other? No. So that's something that's, so again, it gets to be a question. Right now, Jupiter is passing over. I'll show you the US chart in a second. So we're going to go to the United States chart just for a second. So this chart, Mercury does represent the media. So essentially, the media is, I'm trying to think of a good way to put this without sounding paranoid. The media works behind the scenes. It digs things up. It looks for scandal. Rahu is scandal. It looks to excite and provoke and addict people without them realizing it. That's essentially, it's a commercial entity. Its best interests are served by keeping you watching. Okay? So that's the nature of media in general. But with Jupiter passing over the sign, and it'll pass over the sign much more intensely this coming summertime, you'll start to see more and more court cases, more and more criminal charges, more and more activity connected with uncovering scandals. This also has to do a great deal with what's happening in terms of the Epstein uh, files. So we have Rahu right over the moon sign in the United States chart, and From at least from what I'm seeing, there are a lot more people involved in this than just Donald Trump involved in the Epstein situation. So a lot of people will be hurt by that when that comes out. So it isn't just, for lack of a better term, and I'm not defending Donald Trump, there will be a lot of people damaged by this. Uh, the other thing is, in, ultimately, because Jupiter is aspecting the moon in this chart, in the U.S. chart, uh, the truth will come out. Jupiter is actually, interestingly enough, Jupiter is aspecting Rahu in the transit chart. That's when a lot of secrets come out. It'll aspect uh, within about a month's time, month and a half time. You'll see a lot more information coming out over the next 6.5 months about Epstein, but also about various political uh, manipulations that have occurred over the past, I would say, over the past 12 years. So this will be a very interesting time to watch uh, the United States and also a lot of countries. To be honest, it's not the United States is uh, the only news in the world, but uh, I think I think I think overall the U.S. chart has um, a profound influence on other countries just because of its size. So it doesn't mean that it dominates the other countries, but it's the largest economy in the world. It's probably the most influential country in the world. And I don't mean that egotistically, it just is. So that doesn't mean that other centers of power don't have influence, like China has a lot of influence. Uh, Germany has a lot of influence. Um, Obviously, any of the big economic powers, uh, India, Japan, have a lot of influence. But I think it's been interesting to see that with this with this small transit of Jupiter into Cancer, a great many countries have been protesting or have been turning more and more conservative. So, and when I mean conservative, I mean traditional in terms of their society. And so Jupiter is a very traditional planet. The more strength it accumulates, and it'll lose strength over the next 6 months or so. So that'll be interesting. But it will be in Trump's house of gains, so he'll actually gain more action or gain more leverage over the next 6 months or so. What happens after that when it enters his 12th house, that's a different story after June of next year. But but basically, if you have this kind of a combination, you'll see a lot of scandals over money over the next few months, a lot of scandals, a lot of disappointment with desires or a lot of frustration with desires, a lot of court cases and court matters. Also, what I would call a lot of misrepresentation in court because the sixth house is with Mars and the eighth house is with Mars. So there'll be a lot of hidden scandals or hidden problems come out over the next 6 months or so. Moon is really an ephemeral uh, influence in the chart, so I'm not going to focus on the moon. And Venus will essentially cause a great many matters to be brought to court. In terms of tariffs, I'm not going to talk about tariffs because I'm really a little bit confused about that myself because I can see arguments on both sides of the situation. And but if you buy the rationale of the current administration, we're in a kind of a crisis or an international crisis connected with not only with fentanyl but with trade. If you don't buy that argument, then you're going to say, well, it's pushing power too much. And I'm thinking you really can't judge the Supreme Court, but I'm thinking the Supreme Court will probably um, limit Trump's power, but not eliminate it. That's the impression I'm getting from this Jupiter transit to Gemini. Uh, yeah, the other thing is, um, one, two, yeah, so tough couple of years for the United States, if I'm honest. Um, Tough couple of years for a lot of countries, if I'm totally honest as well, because Saturn's aspecting Virgo, um, and so there is a strong desire for trade, and but there's also a lot of criticism going on in terms of the United States. Um, One of the other things that I noticed was I think some generals are bringing a lawsuit against the president in terms of what he's doing in Venezuela. That's unprecedented. And I don't know if they have, I don't know if the courts have jurisdiction over that. So that'll be interesting to look at. But I don't want to bore you too much with stuff like that. Um, the other thing is, so I'm not a legal expert and I don't pretend to be. But it doesn't sound like something that the civil courts would have any kind of authority over. Um, Mars is aspecting Rahu, so there's going to be a lot of fighting about belief systems and also about uh, how far left the Democratic Party will go. The other thing is we're seeing splits in both parties right now, right, in the United States. um, and so you're seeing some of Trump's supporters backing away from him, and you're seeing the Democrats essentially threatening the traditional party leaders with rebellion. So again, we're in a situation where we have three retrogrades active all at once. Mercury and Saturn will at least move direct at the end of the month. So maybe we'll see an end to some of this infighting, but that this will keep up the fighting pattern for really the balance of November. Okay, okay. And also the dissatisfaction will continue for at least another month. At least another month. Let's go to the US chart just for 1 second. I'll talk about what the chart means for you in a second. So right now, the United States is in a Rahu Mercury Saturn subperiod. Saturn usually slows down, but it does tend to give the United States more prominence in the world. Okay, so Saturn subperiods tend to make us a little bit more extroverted and more interested in foreign territories. The Rahu K2 subperiods. K2 was responsible at the end in the late 60s to early 70s for a lot of the rebellion that we saw in the United States. So I'm not expecting March through. Uh, I'm not expecting next year to be a very civil year all the way until April of 2027. So I think one of the things we can expect is a lot more political violence, um, Hopefully not more assassinations, although I wouldn't rule that out. And also a lot more demonstrations, especially after March 27th, 2026. If it follows the pattern of the K2 Mahadasha that the United States experienced in the 1960s, then we'll see major splits in both parties and maybe the start of a third and maybe even a fourth party in the United States. So this will be kind of an interesting time. There are more political parties, obviously, in the United States than just the Democrats and the Republicans, but the Libertarians aren't really that big. The Green Party isn't really that big in the United States. Um, so um, there is a Socialist Party, I believe, in the United States, but these are relatively small parties. And I think you may see either uh, a, a leftist takeover of the Democratic Party, pushing it more left, more populist than it has been. So the Democratic Party, not criticizing them, but they're a very corporate party. So essentially, if so, a lot of the Democratic choices, with the notable exception of Obama, have been what I would call top-down choices. So essentially, the Democrats will say, "Well, we want this person to get the nomination," and that's been true ever since. It was almost true in 2008, but it was definitely true in 2016 and in 2020. The Republicans were more uh, open-ended than that, but um, they're going to be thrown into a relatively leaderless position over the next couple of years as well, because Trump, no matter what they say to freak people out, Trump can't run for a third term. So I think you'll see some changes. If we're looking at the world, if I can project out from this map, so again, this period, I expect a lot of violence, maybe even destruction during this period. Uh, I don't think I don't think it's an indication of civil war, but I do think it's an indication of a lot of protests and, like I said, some violent activity. Now, the interesting thing is this may backfire because people may not like the protests, and that may give ammunition to the Republicans to um, send more troops out and do essentially what Nixon did, essentially shut down the campuses and shut down the riots that happened in the 1960s. So this may backfire, but K2 is kind of a wild card. It's really not. It's an eccentric planet, and it can give really unexpected results. So, so essentially, a lot of the rules are off when K2 is starts to dominate. So let's go back to the chart we're looking at right now. So for ordinary people, for people in the working world, but again, I just want to talk about the world in general. We are seeing a lot of um, coming apart of the seams in a lot of countries. Canada, it'll be interesting to look at Canada, see how Canada does over the next few months. I'll probably look at Canada's chart again before too long. And I'll probably look at the UK's chart because the UK is Prime Minister Starmer is facing a lot of opposition right now, and uh, Germany's facing a lot of trouble. France is still in economic trouble, and Italy is at war with the European Union, or not literal war, but is in conflict with the European Union about what they can do in their country. So this isn't, those are just the examples. I can think of Poland has shut off immigration. Um, Japan has shut off immigration. Uh, and so I think a lot of these um, countries have looked at what they've been uh, willing to take on over the past few years, and they're saying to themselves, whether rightly or wrongly, we can't afford this. It's damaging us too much, both cost wise and culture wise. So I'm not necessarily saying they're right, but I'm saying that Jupiter edging between Gemini and Cancer is a mighty strong indicator of a return to a more restrictive policy. So that's what we can expect to see in the short term. In terms of stocks or in terms of markets, Jupiter retrograde usually pumps markets up. Saturn um, retrograde usually downplays risks, so I think you'll see more realistic risk assessments after the end of November. And Mercury retrograde means there are actually some great deals out there to be had if you're shopping around. So I would tend to. This is probably going to be a good sale month for people. So if you're on a more practical, personal level, it's probably a good time to buy. But the other thing is, the other problem is Saturn being in the sign will tend to shut off credit a little bit. So um, it's a good time to buy. A lot of um, businesses are lowering their prices. You'll probably experience that as well, but the credit's a little bit not really maxed out, but it's bordering on that, and that'll become more evident towards the end of November. In terms of, so let's look at um, individual charts, but in terms of social policy, we expect more conservatism. The media actors are starting to back off from that a little bit. And Venus is in its own sign in Libra, so that's actually favorable for trade. Venus is actually the trading planet more so than Mercury is. So this is why we reached so many trade agreements over the past couple of weeks. And let's see now, Rahu in Aquarius, again, allow technological innovation. This is one of the big impetuses behind AI. In terms of currencies, I'm still skeptical of crypto. It's just my nature. Uh, I don't like investments that go like this, or like all the time. I just think it's inherently risky. AI actually itself is is shoring up a lot of the stock market. So we'll see how that plays out, but I don't think it's going to really start to see any serious downside to it until probably March or something like that. And that doesn't mean you should sell all your AI investments right now. Just, I'm not an investment advisor. I'm just trying to give you a general idea of what's happening. And I'll try to get a chart for AI and look at next week. The other thing is, from this chart, Saturn in Pisces, just be careful about buying things you don't need. So let's talk about the actual specific charts for you as a consumer or you as an individual. So Aries lasts from April 15th to May 15th in a Vedic chart. And we have Venus in the seventh house. So that indicates usually good relationships with businesses, although you will have to watch out for people cheating you or trying to overcharge you at some points. Be careful about that. So if something seems like a bargain or a relationship seems too good to be true, it probably isn't a bargain and the relationship probably is too good to be true. But Venus in the seventh house overall protects the rising sign, and it protects the money of this particular Aries rising sign. The first house lord is in the eighth house. That indicates this sign will be very interested in investments, but again, caution is urged. Unless you can get out of an investment really quickly, I wouldn't invest right now. Jupiter's in the fourth house. That's very good. Family life is relatively calm and placid. Relations with siblings aren't quite so nice. So, fifth house has K2 in it. That does give an indication that there will still be some problems with children. Moon is in the sixth house. Some problems with home life, but not major, not as bad as they have been. And like I said, you have to watch out for people pulling things behind your back over here. Rahu's in the 11th house. A lot of interest in new gimmicks and new inventions. Saturn in the 12th house. Don't spend anything you don't have to. Okay, this is for Aries. For Taurus, Taurus has the Lord of the first house. That's May 15th to June 15th or so. Taurus has, and this is also Taurus moon and rising sign, as you know from previous broadcasts, if you watched so far. Taurus has Aruda Lugna in the first house. Aruda Lugna is essentially the rising sign in its own sign. And so there's a lot of emphasis in this chart on monetary accumulation over the next few months. Jupiter's in the third house. This sign will be very careful. They'll be optimistic, but careful and courteous. K2's in the fourth house. Some problems expected in family life, especially with mother. Children will be temperamental or moody. Sixth house, you have to watch out for illnesses for this sign. Seventh house, watch out for fights with spouse or relationship partner. Career life, you should get a certain amount of fame or recognition. And Saturn's in the 11th house, good opportunity for financial gains. For Gemini, this is June 15th to July 15th. Gemini has no planets in the first house. It has its first house rulers in the sixth house. So this sign can't see itself involved in arguments about contracts or money or even lawsuits to a certain extent. Some problems with people lying about what it's done, though, especially to law enforcement or to any kind of regulatory agency. Jupiter's in the second house, though. It does indicate a financial comeback for this sign. K2 is in the third house, so this sign will have a lot more bravery than normal, or it will tend to be more courageous. And Moon is in the fourth house. Family life will improve a great deal, and relations with children will improve a great deal. Also, strong potential for love affairs if you're interested in that kind of thing. Mercury, Mars, and Sun are in the sixth house, so that's where a lot of the problems or enemies to fight or even lies to fight will come in. That'll be around for, to be honest with you, for at least another month or so. Seventh house Lord is Jupiter. The Lord of the seventh house is exalted in the second house. So a lot of relationship opportunities, at least over the next few weeks. Saturn is Lord of the eighth house and the ninth house. and is placed in the 10th house. So the more research you do, the better a job you'll do, the more career stability you'll have. And as a matter of fact, you may conquer new territories or expand your business into new areas through hard work. For Cancer, Cancer is July 15th through August 15th. My voice is starting to go down, as you can hear. So it's July 15th to August 15th. Jupiter's in the first house. It generally tends to protect the sign. We have both a Hamsa Yoga and a Malavya Yoga. That's essentially a very strong Jupiter and a very strong Venus in this chart. And we also have a kind of a Ruchaka Yoga. If we're being generous, some astrologers take planets in the fifth house as producing what are called great personality yogas. So Jupiter, Venus, and Mars are all strong this week. And that's especially lucky for Cancer because it improves Cancer's luck, it improves Cancer's finances as Lord of the 11th house, and it improves Cancer's general well-being because it's the 5th and the 10th Lord. So you should see some career expansion, but you will have to, I would say, put up with people lying or interfering with your progress to a certain extent. That will go away within about 9 days. Okay, so Mercury will be in the same sign with Venus. That'll make it a little bit easier for people to trade or get what they want within about 9 days. So we'll have kind of I would say a blessed period between roughly the 25th and 30th of November because of this Mercury-Venus conjunction, and it'll continue into early December. So a lot of signs could see a lot of improvement in life during those periods. But for Cancer, it'll definitely improve home life. It'll definitely improve business life, and it will even improve relationship life. So Saturn, Lord of the seventh house, is in the ninth house. That particular combination is good for improved luck because of a relationship partner. Rahu's in the eighth. There can be some scandals connected with relationship or business partners, so you have to watch out to make sure you're not involved in that. And that's about it for Cancer rising or sun or moon sign. For Leo, now Leo's had this K2 in it. It's going to have K2 in it for the really throughout pretty much until the end of next year. Sorry for my stammer there. Jupiter's in the 12th house. That's good for saving. And within about a couple of weeks, we're going to the 11th house. So this sign will see a lot of gains or a lot of fulfillment of its ambitions. So we're seeing some temporary setbacks right now for the sign, increased actions, fighting foes or fighting enemies. But basically, the sign will start to show more gains in the month of December, around December 10th, maybe even earlier. K2 in the first house, the sign will seem to have an intuitive understanding. It'll be somewhat fearless. It won't worry about consequences to itself. Jupiter's the Lord of, the Lord of the second house is Mercury is in the same sign with Mars, so that does give this sign a propensity for lying in order to get what it wants, and a lot of activity. So this is Donald Trump's chart. So this is one of the times I can say that Donald Trump is actively misrepresenting himself. Okay, A lot of the other charts I've seen, that's not the case, but in this chart, he's being a politician, at least in the short term. Um, Moon is in the second house, so that's does indicate some problems with speech or self-expression. Venus is in the third house. That's actually good for fulfilling ambitions. Mars, Mercury, and Sun are in the fourth house, aspecting the seventh house. So that can give some problems with partners or wives. And let's see now. Fifth house has Jupiter in it, or is ruled by Jupiter, excuse me, which is in the 12th house. So there can be some slippage of luck for this sign over the next week or so, week and a half or so. And let's see, no, yeah, because this is going to change, I think, within about a week, 2 weeks at the outside. Um, so let's go on. Sixth house lord is Saturn. Saturn's in the ninth house for this chart. So it should give some, I'm sorry, Saturn's in the eighth house for this chart. So some of the enemies this sign has will be hidden, and Rahu, and there'll be some dissatisfaction among business partners or allies. Let's see now. Ninth house lord is Mars. It's well placed in the fifth house for gains through strategy and also through manipulation. Venus is in the 10th house. Venus rules the 10th house, excuse me. And Venus, as ruler of the 10th house in the third house, gives a good ability to succeed career-wise. For Virgo, this is, so that's August 15th. So Leo is August 15th to September 15th. Sorry, I didn't see that. Cancer's July 15th to August 15th. Virgo is September 15th through October 15th. Moon sign, Moon is in the first house, aspected by Saturn right now, so this sign will be a little bit sick or have a lack of vitality. But Venus is in the second house, so it's good for financial gains. It's almost out of the sign, by the way, if you notice. And it's like just within 1 day. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Kala. It's in about 12 days, it'll be passing into Scorpio. So essentially, you'll have a combination of Venus, Mars, and Mercury in Scorpio within about 3 weeks or so. And and but at least right now, this is good for money for this particular sign. Venus is right in the middle of the sign. It's very strong. It's almost at its strongest point in Libra. So that's actually good for trade, good for money for the sign. Mars is in the third house. So a lot of courage and ability, but there can be some kind of an ability to lie or exaggerate in order to get what one wants. Rahu's in the seventh house, is in the sixth house, excuse me. So that can give some legal issues or even some worries about health. Saturn's in the seventh house. Relationship partners will seem to have health issues or health problems. Ninth house lord is Venus. It's located in the second house. That's what's considered a Dana or a wealth producing combination. And Mercury is in the 10th house. Mercury as 10th lord in the third house allow desires for personal growth and career. And Jupiter's in the 11th house. That's not a bad placement. That actually gives good financial gain. For Libra, this is October 15th through November 15th, but also Sun in Libra, or I'm sorry, also Libra rising, or Moon in Libra. This sign will feel like it has people attacking it. It will be bringing in some money because this constitutes a really powerful Dana Yoga or wealth-producing combination for Libra rising, because you have the ninth Lord along with the 11th Lord, along with the second house Lord, which are all connected with money and luck in the second house. So this should be a relatively prosperous time for this rising sun or moon sign, and a lot of financial gains. Sri Lagnas in the third house is a strong desire for financial improvement from this particular sign. The Lord of this particular sign is in the 10th house, so career life will be good for Librans over the next couple of weeks. But there will be opportunities to learn next year as well, between now and July of next year. Saturn rules. Saturn rules the fourth and the fifth house, so it's considered the best possible planet for this particular rising sign. But everything Libra gets, it's going to have to fight for, and there will be delays in compensation for what it gets. So there'll be some compensations that have been promised since early October that won't come through until the end of November, mainly because of two retrogrades, Mercury and Saturn. Yeah, but again, this isn't a bad sign placement. Saturn does well in the sixth house. If a person is willing to work, they'll be all set. Jupiter's in the 10th house. This gives increased status or increased improvement to the person's client base or the person's job prospects. Work will seem easy. K2 is in the 11th house. Friendships will tend to be broken for the sign this year to a very large extent. Again, really loyal friends won't back off, but people who are your friends just because of what they think you should believe, those will go bye-bye pretty quickly. So there'll be some loss of friends, but the ones that remain will be really true friends. Moon is in the 12th house. There is some good possibility for some financial gain, and career will be involved in remote locations or in people from remote locations. For Scorpio, Scorpio has Mars and Mercury and Sun in the first house. Scorpio lasts between November 15th and December 15th, or it could be a Scorpio rising or a Scorpio moon. And this sign has basically a lot of responsibility added to it for people who have relationship partners. There can be some difficult news for them. So what I would call bad health diagnoses, or maybe even incorrect health diagnoses. But with this Venus in the 12th house and Venus moving into the first house, it'll actually bring a lot of relief and a lot of progress towards for relationship partners. Sri Lagna, the wealth producing chart, is well placed in the second house. Rahu is in the fourth, so this does give some unsettlement or readjustment at home. Saturn aspects the seventh house, so again, spouse or relationship partner will be going through some tough times. Jupiter's in the ninth house, so you'll get good medical attention or good guidance. Ketu's in the 10th. Not a lot of recognition for career work, but if career work is spiritual or grounded in spirituality, that will be very good for you, and at least in terms of finances. And Ketu's in 10th house there'll be a lack of publicity connected with career, maybe unnoticed, but there will be some financial gain. Venus is in the 12th house. It's a good opportunity to save money. So this is one of the better placements for Venus. For Sagittarius, Sagittarius lasts from December 15th to January 15th. Um, Financially, it looks okay. Saturn aspects the first house. So you'll be feeling that for the next couple of years, I'm afraid, Sagittarius. So just get ready for a lot of work, especially a lot of work connected with the home. Rahu's in the third house, strong desire to improve one's life, and Jupiter's in the eighth. Money can come through investments and also from spouse within a short period of time. Ketu is in the ninth house. Not a bad placement, but there can be some unexpected breaks or interruptions in education. Moon is in the 10th house. There can be a possible change in careers for this sign. Venus is in the 11th house. Good for financial gain, good for financial improvement. And we have a Mars, Sun, Mercury conjunction in the 12th house. So this sign should be really very aware of new partnerships it develops, of being betrayed by partners. It looks like it's going to be tough for a couple of months for the sign in terms of being able to trust people, especially people from different cultures or from different countries. For Capricorn, which lasts between January 15th and February 15th, we have Rahu in the second house, so good for financial gain. Saturn is in the third house. Not a bad placement. Saturn's actually gives a sign, allows determination. Jupiter's in the sixth house. It can give any potential losses. It can kick them out. And let me see now. Jupiter's in the seventh house. Good business partnerships. Ketu's in the eighth house. Unexpected, or what I would call dribbly remains from investments. Moon is in the ninth house. This isn't a bad placement, but the more impressive placement is, so this indicates business partners will be helpful, but the more impressive placement is Venus in the 10th house and Mars and Mercury and Sun in the 11th house, which indicates good financial gains and good career prospects for this sign. For Aquarius, that goes from February 15th to March 15th. This has Rahu in the first house. There is a desire or a fascination with the new, maybe even a little bit boredom with daily life. Ketu is in the seventh house. It can be detachment or kind of isolation of relationship partner. Maybe relationship partner is a little bit sick, although it is somewhat protected by Jupiter and Venus in this chart. Relationship partner is protected, but again, it is, I'm not going to lie about it. There are some health issues with relationship partner. Venus is in the ninth house, very well placed for financial success. Mercury, Mars, and Sun are placed in the 10th house. Good for career climbing. Saturn's placed in the second house. Financial gain, but only very, very slowly. Last but certainly not least, we have Pisces. Pisces has Saturn in the first house. So this is from roughly from March 15th to April 15th. Saturn's in the first house as Lord of the 11th and 12th. Again, you have to watch out for overspending for this sign. But Jupiter's in the fifth house, about to go back to the fourth house. Good time for learning for this particular sign. Good time for overall luck. So even though that Saturn is in the first house, Jupiter is going to counteract the effects of that placement for a good uh, year to a year and a half. Let's see now. K2's in the sixth house can indicate some health issues for this particular sign, but they don't look serious. Moon is in the seventh house. Sometimes people with this placement will tend to be interested in changing spouses or changing relationships, especially over the past month. And let's see now, you have good relatively good career luck. Venus unexpected gains coming from marriage partner, and Rahu in the 11th house. I know told a lot of people about this, but this does tend to obsessive purchases and purchases you really don't need. So just stop and think about whether or not you need something before you go out and buy it. Let's look at the astro map. It's not how I want it to be. Let me see if I can get it right. That's much better, much better. Okay, so there are some interesting reports uh, coming out. I saw like little news clips on the Hawaiian fires, and I I I think I said this last week, but I noticed some interesting parallels between the Hawaiian fires and the California fires, in that they're both located on prime real estate. Some rich people are buying up the Hawaii properties, and this could lead to a local scandal in Hawaii because we have a Rahu line coming right next to Hawaii, and also the California fires are a little bit suspicious because they haven't managed to start rebuilding yet, and there are rumors that investors are interested in buying up the Palisades area. So we'll see what happens with that. This just may be rumors, but we'll see what happens with that. Alaska has a sun line going through it. So does the Northwest Territory in Canada. This is one of the provinces that wanted to join or want to secede or maybe possibly join with the United States. And Alberta and Saskatchewan were the other two, if I recall correctly. So I think these are over here. Quebec has declared itself independent. I think I saw that just a little while ago. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but the moon line down this particular area of coast near Vancouver and near Washington and Seattle can indicate significant flooding or um, problems with local government. There's a Venus Jupiter line running over Mexico and right into the center part of Texas. So this entire area right here is prone to water damage. It looks like we have a Venus line running up through Nebraska and uh, into Canada, and that area should experience significant rainfall. Sun is with Jupiter up near Canada, up near Lake Superior, and let's see, oh, and also going through is a sun line going through Michigan as well. So this does indicate more government involvement in that part of the country. Um, and let's see now. sun line is going down all the way into, I believe it's Mississippi, and into Central America. So we should see more governmental pressure applied to those parts of the countries. There's a Mercury line running close to Ottawa and close to Toronto, and also down by, um, I believe that's Rochester. That's close to is it close to the falls? I can't remember. And also down into Pennsylvania and down into Virginia. So this entire slot right here, this entire section is, there'll be lies spread about it or misrepresentations of what's going on, all the way down to through Cuba and Haiti, and also into Venezuela, Peru, Ecuador, and even a little bit into Chile, excuse me. So this Mars line, as a matter of fact, there's a Mars line right over my part of the country. So this could indicate some potential fires or damage, or even increased violent activity in New England, Haiti, and Venezuela, and down into Peru, Ecuador. There's a Rahu line running through Guyana and also through Brazil, and a Saturn line is also involved there. So this could indicate problems with the government and problems with the economy, especially in Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Brazil, and Bolivia. There's a moon line running off the coast of Brazil. Some danger of severe rainstorms. The only line close to the Azores is a Jupiter line, so that's not bad. And there's a Jupiter line running through Iceland as well. So that's never really a bad line, but I think in retrospect, if you have any questions, just any questions or any comments, or want to say anything, just let me know. Just post it in the chat. So Iceland will be going through some governmental reforms, it looks like, from this chart. The west coast of Africa is a Venus line, so heavy rains are indicated for that. There's a sun line running through Morocco and down into Libya, and I think that indicates and also Mars and Mercury. Oh my gosh, excuse me. There's a Mars Mercury line, so there can be some government disruption, some government deceit going on all the way down to South Africa and through Mozambique. And there's a Rahu line heading straight pretty much Poland and all of Eastern Europe and down to Turkey and down through Egypt and Sudan, and even further down, technically into Somalia. So essentially, what that means is there's increased governmental scandal in this part of the world, and I would say to a certain extent, a certain misrepresentation going on there, especially between Finland, Ukraine, Turkey, Egypt, and all the way down to South Africa. The Jupiter line going through Iran, intercepted by a moon line, so you may see increasing descent in Iran and in Yemen. And let's see now. As we go over here, we have Russia is experiencing a Venus line. Russia and India are experiencing Venus lines. So those countries should be doing relatively well with trade, at least this part of the country over here. And so should Ceylon or Sri Lanka. Um, a sun line running through um, Western China over here, this particular part of China. If I can get the mouse back over there. This particular part of China and all the way down into Myanmar, Thailand, Myanmar used to be called Burma, um, and the Asian Southeast in general. So, I mean, that's not going to go away anytime soon. The other line that I'm looking at, though, is the Mercury line. So, there's a Mercury Mars line hitting China, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Indonesia. So there can be some political squabbles or some political infighting there. And there's a Rahu and Saturn line. China is doing worse. I keep harping on this, but China is doing worse than we think it is. That Rahu Saturn line is also affecting Korea. It's also, to a certain extent, affecting Japan. And there have been increased hostilities over the past week between Japan and China over Taiwan. So hopefully that won't escalate any further. That's my sincere wish. And I won't be happy. I won't be unhappy at all if that prediction fails. There's a Rahu line. So this gives some scandal in China, New Guinea, and again, some economic recession in eastern China. Let's So there's a moon line running over Australia, so this can give some change in local governments. And also, there's a Rahu line going over Western Canada, so these folks um, will, will tend to be upset with the government or not really liking the Australian government. Um, line going up through Australia does indicate a change, but it won't last long. And Jupiter's not hitting anything over here, but um, so let me just see if there's anything else I have to bring to your attention this week. I know I haven't talked about New Zealand, but there doesn't seem to be a lot happening out there. These two lines are let's see what they are. So some government scandal happening in New Zealand again, and I think over here, um, these this line does indicate some problems in these small island chains. So again, like I said, I'm keeping my eye on this part of the world more so than the Middle East because these planetary lines don't look very active over the Middle East, if I'm quite honest. No, they're problematic. but not to me, not as problematic as these are, or even these. So that's it for now. If you have any questions for me, please post them. Let me know. As always, I would ask you to subscribe, like, hit, smash that notification bell if you're so inclined, if that's in your personality. And I'll see you next week. Again, readings or classes, you can contact me at 508 525 0001 or at Gary Gomes G at gmail.com. That's Gary Gomes G at gmail.com. Thank you very much, folks, and you have a great week, and namaste.